All right, welcome back to the Move Podcast, brought to you by Patron Tequila. I'm Lance Armstrong, just one of your hosts, sitting next to JB Hager, and the king of the hologram, the high brew hologram, George Hincapie.
That was a big hit. That was a big hit.
It was a big hit. No offense to NBC or to Christian. We were all worried what Christian would think, but we're just having fun.
Christian was laughing. He sent me a couple funny notes about it.
Yeah, good. All right, we're talking about today's stage 2, the team time trial. That actually, you would say Brussels to Brussels, but it was a point to point essentially. There was not the start and finish were not in the same place, which proved to be a little bit tricky for some of the teams, including Team Ineos, just to get to the start on time. But we'll get into all the action in just a second. First, a little bit of business. Today's show is brought to you by High Brew Coffee. Not only are they one of the sponsors of the show, but unexpectedly, they're now the sponsor of the hologram. We had no idea.
They fell into that
one. Makeshift thing yesterday, and that was sitting there, and so they're the exclusive worldwide sponsor of our hologram, our version of the hologram. But check it out, they actually have a new product, right? This is called the Triple Shot, 3 times the caffeine. Oof. This is what I will be taking before George and I race the We Do 50.
And that's going to be your secret.
It's going to be my secret. I'm going to take it before. I'm going to take it all the time. I'm going to have like 12 shots of caffeine just so I can stay within an hour of this man. For our listeners, you can go to their website, highbrewcoffee.com. Type in the code 20TheMove, 20TheMove, for 20% off. 20TheMove. Hologram. Today's show is also brought to you by Road ID. I talked about it a lot in the Spring Classics. For a product that it just makes sense. It just makes sense. You're out there on the roads. If unfortunately for some reason you are knocked out or in a place where you can't communicate, to have all of this critical information, not just blood type and critical physical information or health information, but also contact information, to call a loved one, come get help. Look, riding on the roads these days, we know, is more and more tricky with cars and people being distracted. And it's just an idea that makes great sense. And they're also the sponsor of our trivia contest, which we'll get to here in just a little bit. Let's talk about the team time trial.
Well, we got to mention, first of all, Johan nailed it.
100%.
He described exactly how it would go down.
He has a crystal ball. He hasn't told us, but he must have a crystal ball. I mean, he said I listened to his show last night. I watched our show and then listened to Johan. I sent him a note. I said, Johan, that was fucking amazing. He's just so good. And so for you guys and gals, if you haven't checked it out, go listen to it. The man knows the game better than anybody. He really does.
As we recap the stages each day, Johan goes a little deeper into predictions, tactics, that sort of thing. And he described to a T that Ineos would be in the lead until Jumbo Visma finished.
Well, they would be the first team to go off, which we all knew. They would set the fastest time. They'd sit there all day or for 2 hours, and the last team would eclipse them and have the best time. We didn't know that they would beat them by – what did they beat them by? They beat them by 28 seconds.
Yeah, 29.
23 seconds.
23 or 29?
No, my bad. They're 20 seconds down. It's 20 seconds. But if you think about that, right, if you think about the difference between first and second at 20 seconds, it doesn't sound like that much. The difference of 20 seconds between second, that gets you all the way down to 10th. So they beat the second place team just as much as the second place team beat the 10th. But to me, that puts it in perspective, right? When you have that, when you have density like that in the results, and then you have one team that's just so far superior.
It was a clear domination. I mean, the way they rode was super impressive.
Yeah.
So who are the GC guys most affected, good or bad, by today's results?
I thought AG2R had a terrible ride. I thought they would have been much stronger than they were. I thought FTG, Groupama, had an excellent ride. They only lost 10, 15 seconds. It was quite impressive. Movistar, not a great ride. So those three guys, Landa, Quintana, Valverde, are 45 seconds behind now, which is a lot after a 27K stage, day 2. It's a lot of time to get back.
Yeah, I mean, I said it yesterday. It's real time. This isn't. We're not playing for Team GC here. We're also playing for individual GC. And so this is, if it's a minute, that's a minute that Romain Bardet has got to go make up on his own, or with his own tactics. And so it's a bad day for those. They're looking at to me, they look at the race differently now. They have to already on day 2, which is early, as we said yesterday, for a team time trial.
Who was surprisingly impressive?
Well, it was on the TV coverage. They were mentioning. What are you doing?
I spilled my water. I don't want to get my race book wet.
Let's wait till Lance
I'm
cleans
sorry.
up.
No,
here.
this is. I realize, but I didn't want to get my race book wet.
On the TV coverage,
now.
they
I
were
think I'm
talking
good.
about waiting, whether or not when they would make the decision to wait for Tunisian. And I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but man, if you watch the coverage, he was one of the strongest guys in the whole team, and he was pulling through super hard. Made some monster pulls there at the end. There was no waiting for him. In fact, he was a big factor in their victory.
Yeah, let's not underestimate what it means to wear the yellow jersey. A guy who's obviously never had a yellow jersey in the Tour de France. Even if you have had it, you just ride different. I mean, his motivation and inspiration coming down that start ramp, I'm sure that he didn't expect to be in the yellow jersey.
No, it was great to
So
see.
it's no joke that you ride twice as strong.
You can dig deeper.
Yeah.
It was great to see my old teammate Tony Martin in there. Like they call him the Panzerwagen, which is the tank in German. I had a couple
George.
tough seasons, a couple injuries, some crashes, but you saw today he's back up to his normal level, and I think we'll see a lot of him this Tour de France.
Yeah. 2 surprises for me is my pick. They added a 1 to how I thought they would do. They got 11th. Mitchelton Scott, not a good performance for them, but on the upside is FDJ. I mean, I thought this is a team that historically has been terrible at the team time trial, but we've talked about Thibaut Pinot as an outsider, and clearly this is for him. Big win for him. I mean, he's sitting around. They're all smiles tonight around the dinner table.
Yeah, as I think.
I still think Mark Mattio's an idiot, but really good performance today.
Bahrain Meridia for Nibali, they did a great ride as well. They're still in it. My quiet pick is still hanging tough.
All right. You guys both noticed, comparing it to 15, 20 years ago, how much time people spend in the drops in comparison.
Yeah, I mean,
Mike, almost all the time, regardless of where they are in the train.
You're messing up my whole hologram thing, by the way, because I want to hit that.
Okay,
later on.
we can save it. No, George
right.
wanted. Remember, George asked
Right.
that we let him have it. It was me that observed that, but I donated it to George for his hologram. But I don't know that we're there yet.
No.
The one thing that I did, and you asked me about what it's like to sit around.
Yeah, not just like Team Ineos sitting there in the hot box, whoever's in the lead. That's
After
one
the-
thing.
after the race, that's just annoying.
But before the race, you'd think they'd be warming up and then just going right to the line.
Well, just imagine this. So, and I don't know what these teams are, and I'm sure some of them are quite different, but I don't know what they're doing currently for a warm up. But you have to imagine it is an intense warm up, right? So as logic goes, the longer the effort, the shorter the warm up, and the less intense the warm up. The shorter the effort, the longer the warm up, and the more intensive the warm up. So you have to imagine they do a pretty intense warm up, and then when you show them just sitting at the start line. And then when they say go, they're going 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
So you go from intense to sitting on your ass to full gas, and it's not easy, and it's almost a science to it. The shorter you can lessen that window of sitting around. Because what's happening is the UCI is measuring the bikes and testing the bikes and blah blah blah, and you even brought up the point that
They're measuring their socks.
measuring sock height.
There's a sock height
We are
regulation.
we are fighting crime.
The warm-up protocols have changed quite significantly since you and I have raced. By the
Oh,
way,
really?
Yeah,
Talk to
they're all
me.
pretty dialed in. They're like 25 minutes long. We were on the trainers for about an hour.
Yeah.
And it's very calculated and very specific. And most of the teams are doing pretty similar warm-ups now.
Well, and why do some choose sometimes rollers and sometimes out on the course? Because some were warming up
It's
out
just
on the course.
out on the course at a race like the Tour de France is virtually impossible because you're, especially in Brussels, you just can't find open roads. It's dangerous. It's too risky. So I would be surprised. They were out on the course to see the course today when they had a closed
Earlier.
window.
But you
to
said
do
who was it? You said barely made it to the start line because they were out.
Team Ineos.
They were out rolling.
According to I think Phil Liggett this morning, they because the start and the finish were in a different place, and Logistically, that's just
Yeah.
makes it a lot harder. I don't know why.
My buddy asked me today, what are the differences between a 4 to 5 hour stage in terms of effort and recovery compared to a team time trial? And it's actually very similar. I mean, team time trial is very difficult logistically to plan. You have to ride the course in the morning. You have to do your warm up. You have to have your fueling strategy set before and after the warm up, before the ride, before the actual race. So it's quite intense of a day, even though it's a very short 27-kilometer effort. The day turns out to be very intense.
So it really is a toss up on
would say
total
arguably it's
energy
hard.
spent.
I would say arguably harder mentally. It's much harder,
Wow.
and you are at zone 5, 6 the whole ride. Where in a 5-hour day, arguably you're sitting around chatting with your buddy for a couple hours before it gets really hard.
But back to this sock height measurement.
Yeah.
I mean,
They
you were
can all thank me for that.
right.
That's a good story.
I get
more
blamed
than
for
that.
a lot
I know that.
in cycling, but you can also blame me for measuring sock heights. Yeah, this was. So we started playing around with compression socks right around the same time that Paula Radcliffe, the great British female marathoner, was crushing the marathon, setting world records. And she was running all of these marathons in these compression socks. And she was running, I mean, these were socks that they were just buying down at the pharmacy, right? The ones that older people would wear or people would use for travel. So she was just going down and buying these socks. And so we were like, I would test those out. And we were testing them, and they were actually working. And so I was at a lunch.
How were they working? I'm sorry.
So look, I'm no scientist or expert, but my understanding is that the calf, right, the calf and the calf muscle acts as a pump for the lower half of the body. So the more you can get that, the stronger you can get it to pump blood back to the heart. It worked.
Please don't go showing up in group rides with compression socks now, please.
No, but it's
The
a whole
cool factor is might outweigh the benefit of the compression socks on a bike.
True. That's true.
So you guys were testing.
We were testing them and
saw some benefit.
Yeah, we
Okay.
saw some benefit, and for whatever reason, I was having a quick lunch with Jean-Marie LeBlanc, the former director of the tour, and he noticed. I don't think I was wearing shorts, but he noticed that I had he said, "What are you wearing?" I said, "We're wearing these compression socks we've been testing. I'm gonna try them in the tour." And you see his face. He's just like, he just goes white. He's
C'est
like,
pas possible.
"Oh mon Dieu, oh mon Dieu." And so he didn't tell me he was going to do it, but clearly he called and ratted me out with the UCI and said, "Hey, this guy's going to wear these high socks."
And at this time, there was no rule on
There's
that.
no, of course not.
Right.
No. Overnight, they instituted a maximum sock height rule.
Wow.
And so there goes compression for all of us. But by the way, now, and I'm not taking credit for it because Paula was the true inspiration, but this is a whole industry now. I mean, look at all these brands that make compression, not just socks, but everything. And so they work. Well, it's almost like we're reading an ad for this industry. But
No,
It's a
it's
funny
interesting.
story.
I mean,
it's a funny
I've seen cyclists use it in recovery. Put on the compression socks, get the legs up, but actually while riding.
all my friends and they make fun of me like when I travel. Religious. I will not get on a plane without compression socks.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
never traveled without them.
Oh, look who's going to go buy him a pair. He's going to walk over to Carl's Pharmacy and get him a pair right after the show.
That's right.
Yes, he is.
okay. While we're talking the technology of socks, which they were out there measuring those today, there were some photos getting out. You guys are obviously noticing the tech comparison on these bikes from not that long ago.
Well, no, not that long. This is so, and I found that this Graham Watson posted this image on his Twitter page. I don't know what year, 1984. So this is a team time trial in 1984. You got Sean Yates on the second wheel, by the way. Alan Piper leading it. That's what it looked like. So if you look at that,
Yeah.
I know 1984 was a long time ago, but compared to what we're seeing today, I mean, it's this looks like the Wright brothers, and now people are flying around in Concords.
Before you guys pull up the shot of today's technology, I want to give out a great shout out to Sean Yates, obviously a good friend of ours, but Alan Piper's going through some serious health issues right now. We just want to say we're thinking about you, Alan.
Yeah.
We love you.
Alan strong.
And stay strong.
The other thing, before we get to what current technology looks like, is, and I found this just astonishing, that most of the teams were running a 60 for the front chain ring, the big chain ring.
That's insane.
60. Now, most bikes, if you go buy a bike, and most bikes in the tour are 53s. That's the biggest. That's the big chain ring. we might have played around maybe with a 55. But to run a 60?
Yeah.
Now, the thing about 60 is, and it sounds huge, and you think to yourself, oh, they must be riding 60-11, right? They're not. They never ride 60-11. Nobody can ride that gear unless it's downhill or a 50-mile-an-hour tailwind. You can't push that gear. With a huge chainring in the front, like a 60, then it makes all of those jumps in the back. So if you go from a 60, 15 to a 16 to a 17, the adjustments are much smaller.
So you have less of an angle on the chain.
Well, you
potentially, right?
keep the chain in the middle of the rear cox head, which is what you want. But also, what I hate is when these one buys, the difference between the 11 and the 12 feels huge because you only have one front chainring. So what I'm saying is they can really fine tune their gearing and not make big jumps between as they shift.
But you were even commenting how much time they spend in the drops compared to sitting up on the hubs.
I donated that to George.
That's a donation.
That's part of that same thing.
That's what you said.
I keep wanting. Maybe it's time for that because that's the.
Well,
I think
do
it
we have
is.
a photo of what new technology looks like? It ain't the old guy with the binoculars.
That's not it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Anyways, you all watched the race. You know what it looks like. It's special. I think it is time for that.
It's
I can't
time?
wait. Yeah, let's do the
This-
hologram.
This is a lot of pressure. I wasn't sure if I'm prepared for this, but I'm going to take this opportunity to shine because this is very, very rare occasions. This man has given me my own moment to shine. So I'm going to take it right now.
All right.
I'm going to have to get this eighth can of high brew, please. Triple shot. I think we have a 7 here. So first I wanted to talk about...
Move your mic up, please, so we can...
Yeah, let us know what it is you want to explain to
8
them.
cans is very difficult to do this, guys. I want to talk about the start.
Especially the new one, the new 11 ounce. This is
the new 11 ounce.
yeah. Well, if we had the original, it'd be easier. Whoa.
So we all know what happened in the team time trial today. We know who won. We know the team Jumbo dominated. But I just want to talk a little bit about the intricacies of the team time trial, which many people are not aware of. The start in today's 27-kilometer team time trial has to be very intense. It's usually a guy who's done track racing before. They'll put him on the start. I think we saw Geraint Thomas starting today, which because of his track experience would be my guess why they put him on the start. Most people, if you watch Team AG2R and Movistar, they started very lackadaisical, and they probably lost 10 seconds in the first 500 meters. Where a team like Sky or Jumbo starts very, very hard, always thinking about the last guy. So go to our little hologram. They start out, they get in formation as quickly as possible while the first guy is accelerating, trying to keep in mind this last person who's going to get a little bit of a whiplash effect around the last corner. Once they're in formation, now they're going to be as tight as possible to obviously maximize aerodynamics. Like Christian said today on his hologram, the real one, the last guy is obviously saving the most energy. When we were riding, Lance and Johan banned us from being, which I never quite agreed with or understood. I understood why you guys did it. It was a safety issue. They did not want us in the drops once you got past this third rider back. So this from rider 4 to 8, we had to be in our horns for safety reasons.
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
I would have let you stay in the aero bars.
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I did my own thing for a while.
But if it's Manuel Beltran,
yeah, agreed.
you better be
Agreed.
outside. You just can't. And
Yeah,
I love
because it's so tight.
Wait, are you okay, JB?
I'm all right. I
Jesus.
got water.
It's such a tight
You
formation.
just
that
some of
you-
these guys is
Yeah.
too squirrely. You
one
can't trust
mistake,
them.
the whole team.
And
is
I
going
love
down.
tricky. We used to call it.
So they did it primarily for safety reasons. But you saw today, Jumbo, Ineos, they were all in the bars, all in the.
It looked like a team pursuit.
Yeah, it looked like a team pursuit, and they did a great job doing it. So we can talk about two different styles of the team time trial as well. The one style, arguably faster, is the double pace line. The double pace line is the first rider pulls off, second rider pulls through, pulls off right away. Everybody pulls off instantly. This
Very short pulls.
very short pulls. As soon as you pass the front wheel, you pull off. This arguably is faster, but definitely not as efficient. Why is that?
Much harder.
It's much harder. It's very difficult to recover in that formation, and the strong riders cannot make a difference. The strong time trialists aren't able to pull faster because it messes up the whole rotation and aren't able to pull longer. So most teams, in fact, I think every team, unless it's a downhill, are doing the single pace line where the strong riders can pull for 20 to 30 seconds. The weak riders can just pull off, basically. Get to the front, keep the formation intact, pull off, and go straight to the back. The other thing that's very important that people might not realize in team time trial, it is very important when you pull off, you make an aggressive pull off. If you make a very gradual pull off, it's kind of annoying. This guy doesn't know, is he pulling off or not? That split second adds up, you end up losing a ton of time. So you see the real good teams, they pull off very far away from the team. They go back very far away from the team because some guys tend to drift into the team and take away the draft, and that gets super annoying as well. So it's very important to go far away from the team, go back far, speed up right about here, third or fourth rider back, jump on the wheel.
You stole what I was going to say.
That's exactly right.
I was going to say that's the one thing I was holding out. I didn't want to tell you. Well, yeah, I just think it's really critical that when you pull off and you're drifting back or going back, that, you know, the way I always did it is I knew, you know, say I pull off and my third guy, it was always whoever, it could have been you. Yeah. So as soon as I saw you being three from the back, you start. I mean, then you got to power up again and get ready to get back on the wheel. Exactly. Now, when it gets tricky when somebody misses a pull.
Well, that's where it's very
somebody misses a pull, and all of a sudden, your third guy is no longer your third guy.
That's where your director comes in hand.
Yeah.
Johan or whoever it was, Dirk de Mol, usually Johan for us. He would be telling us by the time we got back 3 to 4 riders, George, Lance, so and so is not pulling.
He's
go in
on,
one rider early. So you knew.
And tuck in there before
that. And it's very, very important that the communication in team time trial is very short and very specific, whether it's between rider to rider or the director telling the rider, because it is so loud you can barely hear anything. You're going 60 kilometers an hour. So the communication has to be very direct and specific.
And unlike a road stage, the communication is one-way communication. All
Correct.
we have is earpieces. So there's no...
You can't even talk to each other. It's
you could talk to them like we're talking to each other.
Just
but
as you're rolling by them.
There's no mic, right? All you have is an earpiece. And whereas in a road stage, you have an earpiece and a mic. And everybody can talk to everybody else. And you can talk to the car. And so this is one-way communication.
Yep, and we can also talk about, I think it was 2002 or 3 in the rainy team time trial, why probably Johan and Lance didn't want any of us to be in the drops was we all yard sailed one
2000.
year. 2000. Christian, Jonathan, everybody hit the ground. Oh, Jonathan was on our team.
No,
Christian, a couple of guys. So there's a lot to say about being in the bulls back here, but clearly the guys today were focused on aerodynamics, fastness, and not thinking so much about safety. There you have it. Hologram presented by High Brew Coffee. Send me an unlimited supply of this to my house. Lance will give you my address. Thanks.
A little bit more business. Today's show is also brought to you by PowerDot. I forgot it yesterday. I got it today. Talked a lot about this last year. I love this product. When it was sent to me, you know, growing up, running, riding, swimming, getting injured, going to the therapist's office, having to get E-stim, and there was this big bulky unit with cables everywhere that was expensive. Somebody sent me this. I was like, this is a game changer. This is an E-stim unit? I mean, this is the size of 6 CDs. And so, full disclosure, us over at Next Ventures are major investors in PowerDot. But the unit, I mean, absolutely works. I don't leave home without it, unless it was yesterday when I did leave home without it. But for all our listeners, you can go to powerdot.com/themove to get 20% off. Also, sign up to win one. They're giving one away a day. Powerdot.com/themove. I'm telling you, game changer. Also, today's show brought to you by Roka. I spoke about Roka yesterday and how great their sunglasses are and how much I've been loving wearing them and how they were, you know, I just think I love companies that were founded by athletes for athletes, which is exactly what Roka has done. Started in a garage. Who knew? In a garage. I love it too. It's like Apple. Apple was started in a garage. But what I failed to point out yesterday is that my readers, you know, a couple years ago, people started making fun of me for having readers. Well, now I have a reader sponsor. Free readers for LA.
Wow.
Dude, how do these look? I think they look pretty cool. Do I look smart?
You do.
Very.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
they can do progressive prescriptions too.
Really? Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Yeah.
Thanks for pointing that out. Also, for our listeners, go to roka.com/themove, ROKA.com/themove to get 20% off your first purchase. Last thing I'll say about Roka, they're actually making us a signature lens. Coming. Just hold tight.
Are you having anything to do with this? Like design?
No, you think they will let me design anything? No, but it's in our colorway, and it's got. You'll see.
All
You'll
right.
see. So just stay tuned.
Very
I
cool.
put it up on Instagram on a story quite a while ago. Some people might have caught it. But
You could do it. You designed that ring.
so glad you noticed. I love this ring. People that see it are like, dude, I love that ring.
Enzo wants one, by the way.
Yes. You want me to tell you what the inspiration behind the ring?
Please.
I hope we're zooming in. Can we see the ring? Can we? Okay, I'm hoping. So all of these events, right? When you finish, right? It's just gotten so trendy or commonplace to give out a belt buckle. So you go finish Leadville in some certain time, they give you a belt buckle. Well, Leadville didn't think up the belt buckle. The belt buckle came from, as I understand it, the Western States 100, which is one of the hardest trail running races in the world. They would give these people belt buckles. And so everybody's now giving out belt buckles. And I'm like, well, for our events, for example, the We Do 50, I mean, we can't give out a belt buckle because everybody's doing that. So I thought, well, what if we made like a really gnarly, filthy ring that was inexpensive to make a lot of them, was adjustable. I don't know if you can see it, but this baby is adjustable, right? So this is kind of an average size, but you can adjust it bigger and smaller. And this is what you're going to get for finishing a We Do event.
So when I
And you're
win on
gonna
the
rock
29th,
this?
I get that one with diamond blings all over it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You guys heard
probably
that. 28th.
Probably cubic zirconius or whatever it's called. I'll get you. But this is JB. Thank you for bringing that up.
I know he's proud of the ring.
Yeah.
As you should be.
Yeah.
As you should be. So come out for the Aspen 50 in the fall. And before we go, we are going to talk about, speaking of Aspen 50, that course that these two are going to race. Let's hold on to that after you guys give everyone your thoughts on tomorrow's
Well,
stage.
hang on. Let's do the trivia, the Road ID trivia contest, because this is actually a good one. So today's daily dose of Road ID Tour trivia. To play, head on over to roadid.com/France. That's also where you can go to get $5 off your purchase. So here's our question. What was the nickname of the first Tour de France champion, Maurice Garin? Garin. Maurice Garin. Go to roadid.com/France to answer the question and score a chance to win today's daily prize, which is a Tacx bike trainer. And one lucky winner will even take home a $10,000 BMC shopping spree, which is just a heck of a lot of money. Again, roadid.com/France.
All right. Looking ahead to tomorrow. What do you guys think?
I think you
Top
wanna go
day.
first.
I think it's on the longer side. 215. What? Can you not mute that?
I tried.
That's
I'll figure it out
unbelievable.
later.
It normally has like a mute button, or you can hit like the thing where you pull down and you tap the moon. It
I
says
got it.
turn off. So basically flat all day, but 215K. I haven't checked the weather yet, but a tricky finish. The way I see it, and based on the math that I see for the last kilometer, it looks like the last 500 meters are about 8%. So yesterday, when I thought it was going to be a tough finish, that was about 5%. Now we're talking 8%. That's different. And so, I mean, I'm probably going to stop predicting because I just can't seem to get it right anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Alaphilippe. Spoke to our good friend Brian Holm today, and he says
Really?
he's feeling very good, and he thinks that he'll be winning tomorrow. Obviously, Sagan, this will be a great finish for Sagan as well. It looks pretty straightforward coming in with two corners after the last kilometer. But like you said, steep finish, so it'll be interesting to.
It's just enough of a steep finish that it takes the
Wait,
really good
did you look
sprinters
at the right
out of
thing?
it.
Because it's 900 meters at 12%.
I mean, does that kind of
That's like legit.
that rules out like the Viviani type sprinters?
Oh yeah.
So
900
the only thing I'd like to point out, George, is please, if you don't mind, and
got
I hate
it.
to bust your balls too
I
bad.
looked at the
but
wrong thing.
You're looking at the wrong thing.
Okay, got it.
That's
Yeah.
a bonification.
Got it.
Now this brings up a good point. That's one of the intermediate climbs, but this brings up a good point. We had this conversation in our pre-race meeting with Johan that was just amongst us, but they have added time bonuses on some of the intermediate climbs now. Am I reading that right? This is said bonification point or bonification. Somebody told me they're adding time bonuses in some of these intermediate climbs.
Just again in an effort to liven up the race.
Yeah.
That could affect some of these GC guys that lost time on the team time trial.
I mean,
No, it'll be insignificant time bonus.
It's
I mean,
small.
They're not going to
It's-
get 30
it's
seconds
not
out
enough.
of that.
there's not a lot, but
But
still.
900 meter climb at 12% with 15K to go. There's going to be some action there.
There's going to be
'Cause,
action.
they're going to try to get rid of, the guys that can't go uphill. Quick Steps, my guess, or Bora is going to put the hammer down on that climb. So that climb is going to be full gas. Should be a fun stage, and it's the third stage of the Tour de France. Still very dangerous, very stressful. Everybody's fresh. Everybody thinks they can win. The risks are very high.
I mean, I think you should make a prediction because Johan's going to get it right on the follow-up show. Looking at tomorrow,
What'll be interesting. Look, I'm going to call Sagan. If he doesn't win, it's the last time I'm calling him. I mean it.
All right, I got Alaphilippe.
So, but what'll be interesting, first of all, the weather looks nice, 75 degrees and sunny, which is a bonus for these guys. That heat wave seems to have passed out of Europe, but they start in Belgium and ultimately finish in France. When they cross the border, which is at the beginning of the stage, or about halfway through the stage, it'll be interesting to see the crowd. The crowds go from like 10 to 1 when you go back to France.
speaking
Oh,
of
it's not halfway
France,
through. They get to France 12 kilometers in. I bet.
12 kilometers.
speaking of France, shout out to the
Oh my
Women's
God,
World
America,
Cup. They're
we're winning 2-0.
they're up by 2, and it's
Dude,
at just over the 80-minute mark.
That's huge.
how about it's a good time for women's sports in America. This
Yeah.
girl is just kicking ass at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Georgia.
She's playing today as well.
Coco.
Coco, yeah. It'd be
Dude.
fun to watch.
American women coming strong, bringing it.
Yeah. I just thought you'd want that update. Now, if you didn't catch the show yesterday, we've been presented. Lance presented George with a challenge, and George didn't bat an eye. So we just referenced the Aspen 50. Lance says, "Hey, last day of the tour, why don't you and I race it, mano y mano?"
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like it's happening.
Has it had time to sink in that this is happening?
Yeah, a couple sleepless nights, and she's mentioned that to me. It's going to be a lot of pressure to race against Lance at his home turf on his course, in front of all of our loyal Move listeners, members and listeners.
Is it going to change your workout routine for the next few weeks while you're here?
I might skip one or two Lance readers from here on out, just until the end of the month.
What a wimp. Yeah.
What's your plan?
My plan is to I'm going to lose. I know that I'm going to lose.
He's sandbagging right now. He's secretly fit.
I'm more concerned, or more interested in providing great content for 3 weeks. But it'll be fun, and I also want people to ultimately come to the 50 in September. It's the best time of year here in Aspen. But he's going to kick my ass. But my plan is that I get the rematch is already set, September 15th. So I know I'll lose. All right. But if I do lose, then there'll be a rematch. And the course isn't marked, and he doesn't know the course.
And that'll be for our members too. And your members are going to get to see race day. Probably a lot of it in real time. That's going to be fun. Check out all the new stuff in the shop. George just got his notebook today.
Yep. Got my notepad.
The new We Do notebook.
Yeah.
Lots of new tees, hats, very cool hats. I don't know, the hat tweaks were really, really good this year.
Thank you. We'll give Higgs credit for that.
Yeah, you can just check out that shop at wedo.team. Also, get your questions in for these guys or your questions for Johan in the follow-up show looking more into tomorrow. Send those to the move at wedo.team.